Welcome in, Raiders. I'm Vamp. This is a follow-up to my arena team concept video I did before. In this video, we're going to do a no legendaries, epics, and rares only. Who should I choose as my speed lead champion for my arena team in Raid Shadow Legends? I'm going to start by saying Arbiter is the person you want here. Until you potentially get lucky enough to pull a mythical or other void legendary that is a better fit for you, Arbiter is a champion that all players can earn. I know the challenges can be difficult, but trust me, you'll get there with time. And if you have her, you kind of don't need this video. This video is for the people that are still working on her, don't have her yet, because she's best in slot with a couple exceptions, and she's going to be much more accessible for most players since everybody can get her, right? Not everybody can get Shuzhen or Arbiter or whatever other champions that you may not even recognize the names of that could be better for certain in-game players than Arbiter. She's going to be real good at this in the mid and late game even. She's still the champion that I use primarily as my speed lead. So basically what we're looking for in the epics and rares list is who do we have in the game that might be able to do some of what she does or do what she does and not do it quite as well, but do it well enough that they can slot in that role until we get our Arbiter challenges done and redeem the Arbiter. Click my promo link in the description box below to get legendary nuker Karato as well as hard carry epic support Tagoar free when you register your account using these steps. Here's exactly what you need to do. Step 1, log out of Plarium Play on your PC. This link will also work on your phone, but only if Raid has never been installed on that device at any point. Step 2, click the link in the description and register your account with a brand new email. Step 3, launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Step 4, go to your inbox in-game and Karato will be waiting for you, eager to knock down enemy champions in the early game. As soon as your account hits level 15, epic support champion and reviver Tagoar will be waiting in the exact same location. These champions will turbocharge your account start in Raid, so don't delay. Click the link and register your account now. The first thing is she has one of the best arena speed auras in the game, 30%. Then on this A3 skill, she places increased attack buff for 2 turns on all allies and fills the turn meters of all allies by 30%. She does other stuff. That's what we're concerned with, right? So we're looking for increased attack buff from a different epic speed lead champion, and we're looking for a turn meter boost, okay? That's basically what we're going to try to put in her place until we finish her missions and actually redeem her. So the first one I'm going to start with, because there's a few options. There's not a lot, to be quite frank, but one of the ones that's been around for a real long time, has been affectionately dubbed Mini Arbiter, and probably is one of the most popular choices, is in the Undead Hordes, and that's the Magic Affinity Epic Gorgorob. So Gorgorob has, in more ways than one, similarities to the Arbiter. He does have an arena speed aura. It's 23%, which kind of makes sense, right? 7% less because he's an epic. Then he has, on his A2, fills the turn meters of all allies by 15%, places that increased attack we're looking for as well. On one skill, that's great. Book it as a 3-turn cooldown. But then, and Arbiter has this too. I didn't want to spend too much time on Arbiter because this is an epics and rares video. He does have a revive and or a heal. He can heal even if no allies are dead. So that gives him some utility in other areas of the game. He's actually real good in dungeons if you're very early in the game and don't have someone better. And it actually gives him a chance to revive if your team doesn't quite get it done when they hit the big nuke in the first turn. If the enemy survives and you get into a back and forth type battle, you might still win because Gorgorob can clutch and revive everybody with 25% HP and then heal. I believe he heals anybody who is revived and maybe even heals himself as he sits there, obviously still alive if he's doing the revive. So, you know, a couple different things with him. He's got the aura that you could use, and he has the turn meter boost with the increased attack. Another option that you have, and personally, if you're able to get a comparable speed aura from somewhere else, this next option would be my choice, and that's an epic I don't hear talked about very much at all, and that's Runekeeper Dazdirk. So right out of the gate, Runekeeper has a kind of bad attack in all battles aura. Now, attack is not a terrible aura. It's just not usually the one you would pick really hardly anywhere in the game. And it would definitely be better since he's a turn meter booster, speed lead type champion if he had a speed aura. But as it is, he doesn't. there are other nukers or control champions in the game, basically other roles in your team, that there are options that have an arena speed aura or an all battle speed aura. So you could use those and get away with having him on your team, but not needing to use his aura, because if you're doing the go first strategy from my other video, you really don't want anything but a speed aura, because you're just going to make yourself slower, which increases your chances of not going first, which defeats the whole point of the team. But here's why I love him. He does an increased attack on his A2 like Gorgorob, but he fills the turn meter of all allies by 25%. That's incredibly high. Arbiter is a void legendary, a very good one I might add, and she does 30. So this dude is doing almost as much turn meter boost as the Arbiter. That's just really strong. He's also a void, so you know, whatever amount of other turns you end up taking, the void is, I guess, as I'm saying, it doesn't matter a whole lot because he's your speed boost champion, but you know, the void does make him a little bit harder to potentially achieve than Gorgorob, so there's that. But I feel like that it pays off if you pull him with this skill being a 25%, 10 full percent more turn meter boost than Gorgorob's. The downside is he does have a cleanse, which is very useful, and he does have a heal plus a continuous heal. It's actually a good heal, because if he has a bit of HP and his base stats are pretty good, the heal is based on his own HP, and then a continuous heal for 2 turns on top of that. So it's a very strong skill. It's just not synergistic with a go first arena team where you're trying to basically just have everybody take a turn and the battle's over, you won. But again, since we're talking about the early and mid game players are probably the primary people watching this video, this is not a revive like Gorgorob, but both Gorgorob and Runekeeper Dazdurk have a lot of utility on their A3s for other areas of content in the game, or for longer battles if you're not able to get it done in, you know, one big nuke, right? So then after that, I'll talk about a champion who's also really well known and quite frankly is good even into the late game, dare I say the end game, depending on what you need and what content you're fighting, and that's Deacon. Deacon has an all battle speed aura, so it's a little bit lower than Gorgorob at 19%, but all battles works in arena, obviously, so he is an option if he's the only champion on your team or the best champion on your team with a speed aura. Then you would put him in first position, and then he would be, in the same sense as Arbiter and Gorgorob, in your first position for the aura and your fastest champion doing the speed boosting. Deacon has a turn meter increase for allies and decrease for enemies on his A3. Now there's one catch with this, okay? First of all, I'll mention that it grants an extra turn. So it is kind of cool that he does get to do 2 rolls, but we'll get to why that may or may not work in just a second. The thing that's a catch here is that he needs accuracy for the decreasing of enemies' turn meters. So personally, if Deacon is the best option on your account for your speed lead, I would say don't worry about accuracy and let him be a true speed lead, unless you can get accuracy and literally lose, like, technically you want to lose no speed, but I'd say in early and mid game you could give up like 4 to 5 speed and still probably win about the same percentage of the time. But like with a true speed lead, you want to go into the Hell Hades optimizer, select only speed first priority in the balanced mode, and search all the gear on your account to just give one champion for your Classic Arena team the best speed possible that can be built onto them with your best speed gear. So in that sense, you don't want any other stats vying for priority, so you would not worry about accuracy. However, like I said, I remember being an early and mid game player, you probably want to use Deacon for some of his debuffs, like on his A2 that we'll go over in a second, and it would be nice if in dungeons and even in arena sometimes he decreased the other team's turn meter. So like I said, I would look at trying to give him some accuracy, but I wouldn't drop more than 5 speed. I would be hesitant to drop any. I'd try to drop 3 or 4 speed max for some accuracy, but just be careful with that, right? But be aware that he can definitely still be your speed boosting champion with no accuracy, because this 15% is the same as Gorgorob, right? So the downside with Deacon, upside is he has the same turn meter boost as Gorgorob and has a speed aura that you could use, even though it's not quite as good as Gorgorob's. The downside is he does not have increased attack on this skill or anywhere in his kit. So and then here comes the thing where we're kind of like compounding on that whole, do you choose accuracy or not? My recommendation is no. If this is the best option for a speed lead, let him be a true speed lead. But if you choose to do something different, he does have a debuff, a very strong, very useful debuff that when booked is an 80% chance of landing, and that's decreased defense. So since this grants an extra turn, if he had accuracy, he would boost your turn meter, which does not require accuracy, decrease any enemies that don't resist him, and then get an extra turn and place decreased defense, again, on any enemies that don't resist him or that he doesn't weak hit. So he's a dual role kind of champion. The problem is you really want your dual role champions to go after your speed booster, so your speed booster can be absolutely as fast as possible. But I think I've made my point there. I recommend not worrying about accuracy if he's the best option for your arena speed lead. That will change with time, right? You'll eventually get the Arbiter, and then it'll be a non-factor. You can build your Deacon however you want. I recommend going full speed. Don't worry about accuracy, but you can do as you please. Deacon is a great option either way. I just want you to maximize your chances of going first, because that's the best way that the go first speed farm arena team actually works. Shocker is when you go first. So one other option that I'll bring up that maybe technically could go before Deacon because of Deacon not having the increased attack is Seeker. Seeker is another undead champion, and actually right beside Gorgorob in the index. And Seeker has this skill, which is filling the turn meter of all allies by 30%. So he's the best one so far. He also places 50% increased attack on himself for 2 turns and grants an extra turn. This is a great champion for this. The only downside that I would say, depending on what you're working with, could put him below Gorgorob or Runekeeper Dazdurk, is that he doesn't have the speed aura. So technically, other than the other utility that Dazdurk brings with the cleanse and whatnot, if we're talking just outright speed boosting champion, Seeker is actually better than anyone but Gorgorob, and he's better than Gorgorob at speed boosting if you can find another speed aura on your account. Okay, so this guy doing a 30%, he might be the only epic in the game that does all allies full 30% turn meter boost, the same as Arbiter, plus the increased attack, plus an extra turn. So he only has 2 skills, so he'll be able to get an attempt at provoking someone. But again, you probably didn't build accuracy on him if you're using him as your main turn meter booster speed lead champion until you get the Arbiter. So anyway, do with that what you will, right? He's not as self-sufficient as Gorgorob because he doesn't have the speed aura, and really, based on this being 30%, he's slightly better than Runekeeper Dazdurk, but you kind of got to make your decisions about who's more versatile for your account when you're in the early and mid game and stuff like that. Anyway, enough about Seeker. He is a fantastic champion, very, very good at this specific role of turn meter boosting. You just got to find a speed aura somewhere else on your account. One honorable mention that I will bring up in case you don't have anybody else on this list, because personally I think that this is probably the worst champion on the list, and funny enough, I've never pulled her in my years and years of playing as a late game player, and that's Golden Reaper. So she has a 20% turn meter boost, so better than Gorgorob's, weaker than Dazdurk and Seeker, but she puts increased speed on all allies for 2 turns and boosts their turn meter at the same time. Basically what you're getting here is a 30% increase to their base speed while they have this buff up. So if it's not removed, it'll be for 2 turns. So what that does differently than the other champions is they get the turn meter boost that gives them an instant turn meter fill, and then their turn meter fills at a 30% faster rate. It's not technically the turn meter fill, but their turn meter reflects having 30% increased speed on them for the 2 turns. But the downside with her is twofold: no arena aura, and then also no increased attack. So she's kind of doing like a little bit like, actually almost exactly like an apothecary skill here, which we're about to get to, and that's the one rare that goes on this list. Actually, I think there's 2 rares on this list, but this one, like I said, of the epics, she's the last one I recommend because there's 2 epics on the list that do more turn meter boost than her, and she doesn't bring the increased attack. You would rather have the increased attack, in my opinion, than the increased speed, but here she is. I wanted to make a comprehensive list for y'all. She is a possible option if you can find an arena aura somewhere else and you don't have anybody else on the list that I've brought up before her. So when we get to the rares, I already mentioned Apothecary, name dropped him, spoiler alert, whatever. He's very well known in the game, and he's actually a really good option just for turn meter boosting if you don't have any of the epics we talked about, which is possible. The earlier you are in the game, the more possible it is that you haven't pulled certain epics yet because you just haven't pulled a lot of champions yet. This is a 30% increased speed, which is nice because it's the big version of increased speed coming from a rare, and then fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%. So again, you have the same issue basically as Golden Reaper, where he doesn't have an arena aura or a speed aura at all. He does do 15%, which is slightly less than Golden Reaper, but the same as Gorgorob, but he doesn't do the increased attack. Personally, I think it'd be much better to have the increased attack than the increased speed. If you have Golden Reaper or Apothecary, and they're your only options, and you have a self-buffing nuker who gives them self-increased attack, that might be a different story. But I just wanted to rank these kind of on the presupposition that we're not usually going to have as many people with self-buffing nukers because that's fairly rare, so we're going to need to bring increased attack on one of the champions, and usually it's going to be on this speed boosting champion. So that kind of bumps Golden, Reaper, and Apothecary down a tier. One more champion that I'll bring up that could be a speed lead option super early in the game, actually Spirit Host. And there's two good things about Spirit Host. I don't know why I clicked out of it fully. Apologies. Spirit Host it's very small, but she does have a speed aura. I need to go to rares. And it's only 10%. But if you're like at the very beginning of the game, the best thing about Spirit Host is she actually does no turn meter boost. She has this aura. She has increased attack on all allies for 2 turns, but she's farmable. If you go to Durham Forest in the campaign, you can actually farm the boss stage. Make sure it's the boss stage. Again, clicking the wrong thing, because I don't even know if the rare champions drop from stages 1 through 6, but farm stage 7 and you could get a Spirit Host drop right here. So you can get an increased attack champion with a little, itty bitty baby speed aura right at the beginning of the game. That could be very useful for you until you pull one of the champions on this list who's better. And then last but not necessarily least, not quite least, is actually one more rare. I think I said Apothecary, then I said no, there's 2, and now I'm saying there's 3. But I thought of Eris, actually, champion we're about to talk about now, as I was talking about Spirit Host. So Eris, I believe, has, this is a dungeon speed aura, so don't let it fool you. You can't use this in arena, but she does have this, and again, this is probably the worst option, but she has a 1 random debuff cleanse, which is not really that useful in arena in the early or mid game, but she does have a 60% boost to 100 of placing increased speed. So if that's the best you got, at least once she puts that up, people are going to be going faster after that. She doesn't have any turn meter boost, any increased attack, or usable speed aura, but if for some reason, you find her a better option for you than Spirit Host, there she is. I let you know about her. And basically that's about it, guys. There's not really any other options. Like, there's a few epics that we talked about that are pretty good. If I forgot any, please drop them in the comments below. But basically, guys, I'm just trying to give you an accessible list of epic and even some rare champions that you could use to stand in the gap until you either pull somebody better or you get yourself the Arbiter. Keep working on your Arbiter missions. I'll catch you guys in the next raid video. Click my video linked on the screen now for my epics only list of buff removal champions for your classic arena team. Check it out.